The first debates of the 2020 presidential election begin tomorrow night. And because of the large field of the Democrats in the race, the DNC is spreading 20 candidates out over 2 nights. The party used random selection to decide who debates when. So only one of the 5 highest polling candidates will be on stage for the first debate tomorrow night. That's Elizabeth Warren. On night 2, you'll see the other 4 polling leaders. So you have Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, and Pete Buttigieg. You'll also hear from electoral newcomers like spiritual guru Marianne Williamson and businessman Andrew Yang. The setup is different from the one of the Republican National Committee used when they had 17 candidates. That was back in 2016, that election there. In their debates, the RNC placed the highest polling candidates in one debate and the lower polling candidates in the so-called undercard debate. According to NBC, the host of the debate, candidates will have 1 minute to answer questions and 30 seconds to respond to follow-ups. Candidates will not be allowed to give opening statements, but they will have a chance to make closing remarks at the end of the 2 hours. Joining me now from Washington to preview the debate is Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Joel, thanks so much for being here. A lot to discuss, and a lot of candidates are going to be weighing in. What policy issues do you expect to create the most contrast between the candidates?
There's so many to choose from, but I think off the top, healthcare obviously has been a front and center issue. Looking at the discussion about Medicare for all, versus some, more progressive ideas, or rather some less progressive ideas than that. I think that could certainly take center stage. I think also, too, some of those progressive items that Senator Sanders has been touting on the trail, things like free college or universal college and kind of that progressive checklist of items that Senator Sanders and now Senator Warren have talked a lot about. I think that could certainly get a lot of attention. And then finally, a through line that I see here is race. And by that, I'm talking about the issue that Pete Buttigieg is dealing with now back home in Indiana. We've seen some police-involved shootings in recent weeks. We know there's a record number of historically underrepresented minority groups who are represented in this field. I think race is going to continue to be a through line through both debates. And, I've said on a number of occasions that the Democratic primary is going to run right through the heart of Black America, and I think this debate will reflect that.
Another hot topic, we hear about climate change a lot. It's being held in Miami, this debate. It's one of the most vulnerable cities in the nation to climate change. We know that the DNC declined requests to hold a climate-focused debate, but do you expect it to be a point of focus during these debates as well?
Oh, certainly, and especially if you have a candidate like a Jay Inslee, who has essentially built his entire campaign around the issue of climate change. But some of the others in the field have also, spent a lot of time, not just on this campaign, but throughout their career, talking about the importance of climate change. It's actually been one of those issues on the progressive Democratic side that has been one of the few organizing issues that's out there that Democrats tend to get really excited about. Now, will it become a voting issue in a general election year like 2020? Only time will tell, but we know that it's an issue that sparks a lot of energy on the Democratic side of the field, and I expect it to get a fair hearing on the next 2 nights.
With so many candidates, I feel like strategy is really going to be so important. Do you think that the candidates, in your opinion, should spend more time attacking the president or going after each other in this first round?
I think this is all about who you are. So if you're a front runner, and I've actually talked to some of the campaigns about this, some of the front running campaigns have said they're going to focus on talking about their narrative, talking about who they are. Think if you're someone like a Pete Buttigieg, as much as we might talk about him in the political chattering class, there's still probably like 70% of America who really does not know who he is or who doesn't even know how to pronounce his name. So he's going to spend time probably talking about himself and creating that narrative, and even others like an Elizabeth Warren, who we know her name, but do a lot of voters actually know her? This is going to be their chance to tell that narrative. But if you're a mid-tier or a lower-tier candidate, say a Cory Booker, a Kirsten Gillibrand, a John Hickenlooper, a Julian Castro, this is an opportunity actually to land a punch on some of those front runners. Conventional wisdom would say that a first debate is a little bit too early to be on the attack. I don't think we're going to see that kind of hesitance to attack here. I think these candidates all know that the field is going to be shrunk by each debate, and I think they know that their opportunity is going to be limited to make an impact on the field.
Well, so while the first night may be a get-to-know-me type of session, night 2 really may be a little bit different because you've got front runner Joe Biden. Everyone is familiar clearly with him. Is there concern in that party that things could get a little ugly if he becomes a punching bag?
No, I don't think so. You know, it's so funny. You mentioned at the top, I mean, there were 17 Republicans that ran last time, and obviously we elected a Republican president in this country 3 years ago. A messy primary in a lot of ways was clarifying for the Republican Party. I think it could be clarifying for the Democratic Party. I don't think a lot of Democrats are too concerned about that. Obviously, there are certain attacks that you don't want to see, personal ad hominem attacks, but pure attacks on policy or on approach, those are all fair game, and those are healthy for the party to have at this point in the process.
So I mentioned this earlier. Want to circle back around. Only one candidate polling consistently above the high single digits will be on stage for night one tomorrow. Who else do you think could stand out or maybe make a name for themselves?
So, you know, Cory Booker's actually riding a little wave here. The whole row with Joe Biden and, you know, the comments at the fundraiser with this about the segregation of senators, that kind of gave him almost a second look in a way, and an opportunity for voters to really get to know him and what his campaign is all about. He'll be on that first night with Elizabeth Warren, and even though Joe Biden won't be there, I imagine that he'll have some very strong words on that whole incident. So, I mean, that's somebody to look out for. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about Pete Buttigieg. He's having a rough week. And so how does he reset from that very tough week that he's experiencing back in South Bend? I think this is an opportunity for him to kind of reclaim control of the narrative that he's lost a bit over the last few days. And then I think you think about someone like a Joe Biden, who, despite the fact that he's the front runner, I think there's still some lingering concern within a lot of parts of the Democratic Party about his ability to endure the entire race and to be able to keep his front runner status throughout the race. So is he going to have an opportunity to, you know, correct some missteps that he's had and project forward about the type of president he would be and the type of campaign he's going to run? These are all, and I mean, gosh, there's 25 candidates, so I feel like I'm giving short thrift to others, but I think you get the point. Everybody has a strategy. Everybody has a thing they want to accomplish.
And speaking of, you know, trying to fit it all in a short amount of time, we're talking about the debate rules as well. They state that a candidate has 60 seconds to answer a question. Do you think that that limits the chance for someone to have a real big standout moment?
Oh, sure. I mean, and look, I think what the DNC is trying to do here, which I give them a lot of credit for, is, you know, push back on that idea that there was a rigged process in favor of a leading candidate last time. I think they want to make sure that voters, particularly Democratic primary voters, understand that there is no rigged process, that this is a transparent process, and that they want to give a fair shake to everybody. But like you said, you know, that time limit is certainly going to restrict how long people have to go. I imagine the moderators will give a little bit of leeway if there's a juicy topic or if there's a really interesting, new pipeline of thought that's revealed through the discussion. I imagine that those moderators have some leeway with the rules. It should be really fascinating.
Joel Payne, thank you so much for being here, Democratic strategist. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you.